Welcome back to Meet the Industry. My name is Jocelyn. I am sitting here with Luz Warrior.
Hey.
Thank you so much for being here. I know last night you were partying and listening to Caliucci's.
Yes.
Oh my God. I love her. I was so jealous. I was like, living through you.
Such a girl crush, you know? She's so sensual.
And empowering.
Yes.
And just like, and I mean, in her voice.
Yes.
I love her song, Loner. Oh my God. Did she sing it?
Yes. She's incredible.
I love her. Okay, sorry. So I want to talk about, you have a podcast called Let There Be Luz, and I want to talk about that.
Awesome.
But I really want to talk about you as a person because I feel like you've been through a lot, and a lot of us, everyone has been through something, but I feel like you have an exceptional journey. So let's talk about the beginning. You became a teen mom at when you were 14 years old.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes,
Okay.
14.
How was that moment? Like the moment you found out? I know. Can you explain about that moment?
Yeah. So it was very difficult. I knew I was going to live a hard life at that moment. Like I knew this is going to be really hard. I told my father and he said, either you have an abortion or you will never see me again. Like you're done.
Wow.
And there was so much on the line. I mean, you know, my livelihood was on the line. But at that moment, abortion just wasn't for me. And I'm pro-choice. It was just for me at that moment. It wasn't the right decision. I couldn't do it. And so I was like, I'm going to have a tough life. Here we go. Like, let's just do it. And it was really challenging to not have my parents, you know.
Because prior to that, your parents had divorced.
Yes.
And prior to that,
You
right?
know a lot.
I told you 4 a.m. I'm like, you better invite me to birthday parties now. No.
Yes.
And you were even involved in like gangs.
I was involved. I was a gang member.
That which is so crazy to me because like not that I idolize, but there's something about that specific era of cholas, like in that time, that I'm just like so like in awe of. Like I know that doesn't sound good, but I'm just like, oh my God, like that was like a whole special era that will never be duplicated. Hopefully.
Yes.
Hopefully, right? Yes. So can you even just like give me like a little, how did that come about?
Well, it actually came about because I was everything that was far from being a chola. I was actually bullied, heavy bullied. Like I couldn't get from one class to the next without having girls waiting outside of my classroom ready to pounce. And there was really no reason for them, just that they were like, you talk like a white girl, you know, you wear pink, who do you think you are? Like, so I couldn't, we didn't have there was no bridge for us to relate in. For them, I was like weird. I grew up in Laguna Beach I grew up in Laguna Niguel in my earlier years. And so I grew up around white people, you know, so I talked a little different when I moved into a Latino populated area. So what happened is that I was bullied so bad, my mom had to pull me out of the school district. And I was like, this is not going to happen to me ever again. Like, that's the last time I get my ass kicked. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please do.
And so I became the aggressor. I changed who I was so that I couldn't be bullied again. I became such a big aggressor that girls would come from all over just to try and beat me up, and they couldn't win. There was so much rage inside of me that I was like, no one is fucking with me ever again. Like, let's go. And I was in, you know, 7th grade, and girls from high school were coming, and I had these moves at the end of a fight that were my signature moves, and people would come from all around just to watch me fight.
You could have been the Ronda Rousey, the Latina version. That's crazy. But I feel like you're so little at that age. I mean, I was afraid of everything. Were you not afraid before going into like a fight or anything like that?
I think I was so beat up before that I was done. I just had it. Like I had a moment where I was like, this isn't going to happen to me ever again. And it didn't. But the problem was that then I became the aggressor, and then I became the leader of the girls in the gang, and I was doing awful things. And then I got pregnant and was like, I can't do this anymore.
You're like, give me 9 months, I'll be back, girls. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, my life changed completely, and I redirected all the energy that I was using into violence and negativity and put it towards being positive and uplifting instead of trying to tear other women down.
So like in hindsight, your daughter saved your life.
For sure, 100%. Like, it's so funny that you say that because I had the opportunity to take hers and I didn't, and she saved mine. You're right.
And I love that you said something that it was kind of more like her will to
Yes.
And I heard when you said that, I was like, I've never thought about it that way.
Yes, her will to live.
That's so crazy because if you think about it, at 14, you're not really thinking about anyone but yourself.
Exactly.
You're not thinking about a life or anything.
Yeah, it was something definitely beyond me.
Yeah. And then so after that, you moved out, you left with your daughter because you wanted to go to college.
Yes. So I had an amazing group of teachers that really pushed me. I ended up living with one of my high school teachers.
Wow.
Which was an incredible experience. They really just believed in me. I don't know what they saw, but they saw something. And I ended up being senior class vice president. I was president of the drill team. I just took on these roles and a lot of public speaking engagements, a lot of really cool things that I got to do. I started competing in marketing campaigns, writing 30-page marketing campaigns at 16 years old, and I started traveling all over the United States and doing these presentations of my marketing campaigns.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
And that was just high school?
That was just high school. Yes, that was just high school.
And then, so you talk about this moment that I'm like, that must have been gut-wrenching. Like, oh my God. Like when you wanted to leave your, the father of your daughter's family and home because you wanted a better life, but that's not what they wanted.
Yeah.
And then your daughter kind of like going back and forth with you, being so little and, that's all she knew.
Yes, it was a really challenging decision because I had stayed for her, but it was really time for me to move up and out. They weren't really keen on the idea of me going to college. Kind of everyone around me didn't really understand, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
But, I am so grateful to the family. So, I very grateful. And my daughter really, that's who she knew as her parents.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a kid,
Yeah.
I was a kid. So that's who she knew as her stability. And there was a moment where she got on her knees and asked me to please let her stay with her grandma. And I knew in that moment, I'm going to leave and you're going to be in a babysitter all day because I got to go to school and then I got to go to work. I had 2 jobs. And I had to make a decision, and she stayed with her grandma.
And you said that you had a vision of the woman that you wanted to be, even at that time.
Yes.
Do you feel like you are becoming or you are that woman now?
At that time, I feel like that woman has already came and gone.
Really?
Yes. There was a moment when I got kicked out of middle school because I was pregnant and because I started so much trouble. And my teacher looked at me with disgust after she found out I was pregnant, and she was signing the papers to get me out of the class and into another school that I was pushed into. And she looked over at me and she said, "Good luck." But it was a good luck you're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
Oh my God.
And I remember getting that paper and being so humiliated, so feeling like really low. But there was a part of me that was almost like I could almost feel my chin begin to lift and my shoulders begin to roll back, and thinking, I'm going to come back into this school one day and I'm going to be the fucking shit. And I saw myself in like a pencil skirt and heels and like a briefcase. And I just saw this like powerful woman. And my daughter ended up going to that middle school. And there was one day when I had to pick her up from school, and I had my briefcase in hand and my I was working in television at the time. And I was walking through the door.
Oh my God.
And I was like, fuck yeah. I did it.
Oh my God.
I just felt like, yes, I'm here.
That is so amazing. Like being able to be like, I knew when no one felt that I was going to amount to anything I knew.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I feel like, okay, you also, I'm such a stalker, but you also talked about, you had a vision, a dream about having your little boy.
Yes.
Before you and your fiance were even
a couple.
And that's so crazy to me because did you have like recurring dreams?
I did. So the first dream, I gave birth to him, and I remember the dream vividly. Like I woke up and I was like, I gave birth to a little boy. I mean, I remembered the feeling of his head, his shoulders, everything coming out of my body. I remember holding the baby and thinking how much healing energy he brought into my life because I never wanted to have a baby again. It was a traumatic situation, and I just thought it wasn't for me. I didn't want to share my love with anyone else. I just wanted to have my daughter. But when this little boy came to me in the dream, me actually giving birth, it was incredible, and he would revisit me. So like a month would go by, and in a dream, he would come back as a baby that was a month old. But even before that, when I was just friends with my partner, Alfonso, I had a vision that we had a baby with a mohawk. And I told him, I'm going to have a little boy with you, and he's going to have a mohawk. And we were just friends, so that must have been really weird. But I was like, maybe you're just going to like donate the sperm and I'm going to be ready to have a kid one day, you know? And my son was born with a mohawk.
Mm-hmm. That is so, and I saw a picture of that.
Yeah.
And then the PJs.
Yes.
The PJs.
So in the dream when he was a month old, I woke up, and in my dream, we were on a bed, and I look over, and he's looking at me, waiting for me to wake up. And when I open my eyes, his eyes light up, and he was wearing these PJs with little like choo-choo trains linked all around and red cuffs. And I was so in love with him already, and I was like, I gotta get off birth control. Like, we gotta have this baby because I loved him so much already. And it just so happened that when I was pregnant, my niece was wearing those PJs that were in my dream.
Oh my God.
And I was like, why is she wearing boy PJs? Where did those PJs come from? They were in a dream. My son is going to wear those PJs. And it was a hand-me-down. It ended up being a hand-me-down, and it manifested itself.
That is so insane. Yeah. It's so weird because I for a while, I keep having dreams of a little girl. And so when you said that, I was like, I wonder if that's my little baby. That's so crazy.
I believe so, yeah.
Watch, I'm going to have the same story in a couple years. So, okay. So you talk about basically the power of prayer. There was a time where things were really tough. Yeah. And I think I'm sure even now, because we're human and things happen, and you talk about going into the shower and praying. Yeah. And I'm like, literally, that is what I do every morning. I'm like praying in the shower. Even when I feel so defeated, I'm just like, God, like I feel like that's when I really can talk and like clear out. So talk to me about like those moments for you.
Sure. Well, I think first and foremost, praying in the shower was something that was instinctual, like I'm sure it is for you. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that there's two things that you're doing when you're in the shower. The water has really powerful energy, and you're actually, without really consciously understanding, you're cleansing yourself. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand that back then, but now that I look in hindsight, I understand that I was going in to cleanse myself.
Okay.
And of course, to ask for help in the same time, to have the strength to be able to move forward. Mm-hmm. I wholeheartedly believe that that we have the power to turn any situation around if we just ask for assistance. It's very simple. Mm-hmm. And I think we don't do that enough. And it's, time to get back around to doing that all the time.
And you talked, I know there's just so many things I want to talk to you about. But you talk about a moment when you weren't allowed to be in a play, like a theater play.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said like that kind of just sparked like wanting to be in there. And I was like, that is the fact that you weren't allowed to be in it and you just watched it and that was enough for you. Tell me about how that basically led you into like your career in TV and film and
Yes. So as you mentioned, I wasn't allowed to be in the play, and I really wanted to. So there was definitely an element of wanting to perform, wanting a creative release of sorts. And I found myself as a waitress during college, and the owner of the restaurant said, we're going to do a commercial. You're going to be in the commercial. And of course, for free, because, he just doesn't want to pay talent. So I was like, okay, cool. So all I did was carry a tray and put plates down on the table. And the man that had orchestrated, that worked for the television station that put together the commercial, asked me, do you want to be in another commercial?
Oh my God.
And that sort of took on a life of its own. So by the time I knew it, I think my third TV job, I was doing a 30-minute show. And I was so terrified because he was like, he became a mentor of mine. And he was like, you have the power to do this. All you have to do is believe. And I was like, but I've never done anything like this. Like, how am I going to host a 30-minute television show? Like, I'm so
You were
scared.
hosting a 30?
Yes.
I'm thinking you're in and out of a scene.
No, I was hosting
Oh my God.
So my third TV gig was hosting 30 minutes. 28:30 is what it's called in television. And I did my first 28:30, and then I was like, let's go. And then I started doing other shows. I hosted a show for the Dallas Mavericks called Top 10 Plays of the Year, and it was really cool experience, and I just got to do all this TV work. And what I began to do is applying my marketing skills, and I would develop solid campaigns for businesses. And I ended up getting a job in television at the TV station, and I was an account executive. But what set me apart from all of the other account executives that worked there, that were mostly men and all older men, I was the only woman and the young woman. What set me apart was that I had an education in marketing and I had experience in front of the camera. So I would go in there and strong arm these people, business owners, and I would tell them, hey, I'm not just going to sell you airtime, but I'm going to create the entire campaign, and I'll throw in my talent if you sign a contract with me. So really what I wanted to do, I was just finding a way to create. I was finding a way to be able to express myself, to write, so I was just being clever with it.
That's a really interesting twist to it. Like, not just like going in and just like, okay, I'm gonna sell this. But I feel like you've always found your way to have your outlet to be creative.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I feel like I'm barely just now at 37 years old owning that. It was so hard for me to say before, I write, or I produced, or directed, or I act, or I perform. And now I'm just fully owning it. I do, and I'm good at it. And I'm just finding that power, and it's okay to feel good about the work that you do.
Why do you think it was difficult for you to to not boast, but to be like, I do this and this? Like, why do you think it was difficult?
I think there's several reasons. And the first one that comes to mind is people always dismissing me for being a teen mom, for being in gangs, I felt like I always had to prove myself, for being brown.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like I was meant to sit at the table. So I always kind of just leaned back a little bit. Yeah. And now I'm just leaning forward and really just embracing it. Yes.
And so after that, take me on your journey. Like, what happened after that?
Sure. So after I started the whole TV thing, I got a little taste for being creative, and I wanted more. Right away, I wanted more. I was like, I want movies. I want to be able to write, be part of film in a way that can really impact and change someone's life and inspire. And the reason that was a seed that grew in me because I watched the film Innocent Voices.
Okay.
An amazing film.
Voces Inocentes?
Yes.
Oh my God. The one from El Salvador, right?
Yes.
Oh.
I watched that movie and I was like, if Chavo can get through dodging bullets under a mattress, I can get through my past experience and what I had to do. So I took a full year of being in prayer and seeking spirituality. I stopped partying. I actually stopped drinking for an entire year. I read the Bible. I did all these crazy things. I was really seeking something bigger and wanting to gain some sort of direction in where I needed to head in. And then the film festival rolled around a year to the day that I had watched Innocent Voices. And I went to the film festival. I wasn't going to go because I was I wasn't eating, I was fasting, and I was in prayer. But my friend convinced me to go. And I actually prayed about it, and I heard my intuition say, I have something for you there. Go. So I go to this film festival, and we're watching a film on Mara Salvatrucha, a documentary. And I hear the man from the film festival say, the director for this film couldn't come, but we have Oscar Torres here, who I wasn't even really paying attention. I was trying to get out. I was like, let's try this. I don't want to stay for the Q&A. Like, let's go. And then all of a sudden, I hear this person that they introduce talking about vibration and frequency and manifestation. And these were words that I was already using at about 26 years old. This was back in 2006. And no one around me knew. I couldn't have a conversation with anybody about these things because no one around me knew at that time. Yeah. And when I heard him speaking, I just start to cry. I just start crying. And I told my friend, like, I have to meet this person. He's like speaking my language. So I meet him, and he ended up being the writer of Innocent Voices.
Oh my God.
And he's a very special human being. He's probably, I don't know how he'd feel if I'd say this, but he definitely has clairvoyant abilities. Like
really?
he has a really strong intuition. And he was like, you are going to leave Dallas. You're going to live in LA, and you're going to work in a studio, and you're going to be a big deal one day. And I was like,
oh my God.
What? Like,
First conversation, right?
First conversation. And that was on Saturday. And on Thursday, I'm on a flight to Los Angeles. And
was that a planned flight or
no? It was just based on the seed that he planted.
And like you literally moved.
I came on vacation for a weekend.
Scouting, okay.
Yeah. And then I ended up staying a little longer. I ended up having like a spiritual breakthrough that was really intense, and I wasn't allowed to travel. I was asked to stay until I could recuperate from this. I had a really crazy spiritual journey. Not a lot of people know about it, but I pretty much entered a completely different realm, and I experienced an amazing experience, a crazy experience. It was pretty insane. So during that experience, I got a voicemail on my phone from a TV station here that had been trying to recruit me in Dallas. And they were like, come into the Burbank studios. We want to meet with you. So I go, and they give me a job offer that I couldn't refuse. So I was like, I guess I'm supposed to stay in Los Angeles.
Oh my God.
It's pretty crazy. It's all just led by my intuition. Everything that has happened in my life has been guided. And I really feel that we all have the opportunity to do that. We just really have to tap in, listen. As scary as it may feel, as scary as it may seem, magic will begin to unfold right before your eyes. It always reminds me of this scene in Indiana Jones where he's having to step forward and there's no floor, and then all of a sudden the floor like appears where he can like step across the cave he's in or whatever. It's exactly like that. And it's even though it continuously happens to me, and it's happened almost my whole life, it still drops me down to my knees and is like, thank you, God. Thank you.
How do you feel? Because I feel like people may want to, but like sometimes I feel like I don't know how to do certain things. Like, how can you tap into that?
Sure. So I think the first thing that triggers me right now when you say that is that you're already saying you don't know how. And that's already a limiting belief.
Right.
Because you really have to believe that the reason you want to do it is because you know how. Your conscious doesn't understand the expansion of yourself spiritually. You don't know what you can and cannot do unless you try to do it. And when someone does something for the first time, I want to say probably 90% of the time they're not successful at it, you know. Yeah. You have to keep cultivating and keep trying and keep moving towards that direction. I mean, we hear stories time and time again of some of the greatest people that have made history that tried and failed a bazillion times. And it wasn't until the bazillion and one time that they found that success. So first and foremost, don't tell yourself that you can't. You really have to internally say, I can. Yeah. And then, you know, move from that space instead of moving from the space where I can't do that.
And so what led you to that spiritual breakthrough?
Weed? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm like, okay, I know what I'll be doing after the show.
No, I'm just kidding. I actually can't smoke weed because it makes me too paranoid.
Oh, yeah.
But what led me to that spiritual breakthrough? I think the desire to stop living. I wanted to die. I have actually attempted suicide several times. And both several times I wasn't successful, and I ended up waking up the next day like, fuck.
You're like, this didn't work. Damn it.
This didn't work. The alarm is going off. I still have to go to work.
You're like, is this hell?
Yeah. I think that it was like desperation of I'm tired. I can't continue life anymore. This is really hard. And it was just failure, flat on my face failure.
And that I love that you said that you took like a year off of like, and that's when you were reading and all this. How instrumental was that period for you?
Extremely, because it allowed me to really listen to my intuition. I quieted all the noise that surrounded me. I was able to eliminate everything that was not serving me and only ingest people's energy that was positive and contributed to me being uplifted and not being, just no negative vibes.
Yeah. Were there any people around you that were like, what are you doing? Like questioning what you were doing?
I really boiled it down to just one person pretty much in my life. There were 3 people pretty much in my life. My mentor, my best friend, and another friend. I did not surround myself with anyone else. Like I said, it was just water, healthy food, in my home, reading, consuming positive content, but I boiled it down to almost nobody around me. I feel like it was really a powerful experience.
Do you feel like everyone should do something similar to that if they're able to?
I think that you should definitely strive to live in a place where you're moving towards ingesting positivity. So implementing it in your day-to-day life. I understand like not being able to cut, everyone out of your life, but if someone is not serving you, I really strongly believe that it is important to remove yourself from that person, even if they are your blood. Even it doesn't matter. Like if that person isn't contributing to the true essence of what you're supposed to be and what your goal is on this earth. I would hate for me, for example, to be on my deathbed and think all I had to do was detach myself from these few people in order to really execute my soul's purpose.
Or like even forgiveness and all that.
Yes.
I went to the pranic relationship healing thing.
Oh, yes.
And they talk about how like if you don't forgive, they're basically linked to you. They can't for the rest of your life, and next life you'll probably be married to them. So like it was just so crazy how like keeping all those bad things, like they're not with you physically, but they're with you spiritually.
Yeah.
Energetically. Yeah. Okay, so then you move to LA.
Yes.
Okay, and what happened?
I am working for the television station, I get placed in a radio station.
Oh, okay.
In Santa Ana. And I'm working there, and then we have a recession. And the first thing to get cut is Spanish media. You know, everyone's making cutbacks, and I'm having to strong arm mom and pop businesses and try to get money from them. And it was kind of like, my boss was like, you eat or they eat. Who's going to eat, Linda? So I hit the streets and I convinced this family to give me $2,000 for a radio ad because, you know, this is when they need to do marketing. And the difference between Kellogg's and Post was that Kellogg's, in the depression of the 1920s, they kept advertising, and these people, you know, believed me. And it's not that I wasn't telling the truth. I was. It's just that the money that they were going to turn over wasn't enough to
make a difference.
No. So they cut me, they give me the check. I give it to my boss. I go home. I can't sleep because I know that I did something that is unethical. And I went back to my boss and I'm like, I can't do it. And he was like, well, then you can't do it. And I quit my job. I didn't have a job. I found myself at ground zero again. And then I started hosting at a restaurant. They wouldn't even give me the opportunity to be a freaking waitress. I'm getting paid $10 an hour. I have this degree. I have all of this experience. And I'm back down to restarting all over ground zero. And I take an internship in Hollywood because I'm like, I need to move towards that direction. This is what I really want to do anyway. Like, screw the TV, screw the radio. Like, I want to move that way. So I lied about my age. I was 30 years old, interning at a studio, making freaking coffee, printing scripts, you know, and it really sucked. But it led me to my job when I broke into the movie industry. I started working at a Lionsgate entity called Panteleon, and it was a first major Latino Hollywood studio. And I was part of the initial startup team. So there was about 5 of us on the team. And it was like studio boot camp. And by the time I knew it, I was traveling with Will Ferrell for weeks and Diego Luna. And I mean, it just turned into a magical experience. I got to do everything surrounding the development of a film, surrounding the marketing, the reading of the scripts, the traveling with the talent, everything from point A to point Z I got to do. So it was pretty cool.
Oh my God. I mean, you say pretty cool, like if you know, getting ice cream is pretty cool. That's so surreal. What was that time for you? Like, I mean, once you were in that position, looking back, were you kind of like, I'm so glad, obviously, that you took that internship.
Yes.
But like, what would you tell your internship self at that point?
I would tell my internship self, it's okay that you don't have car insurance because you can't afford it. I know this is really tough time right now. I know you just got pulled over and you're scared out of your mind and you don't have any money to pay for the ticket, and you don't even have the gas money to get to this internship, but just keep trying. I promise you it's going to be worth it.
Oh my God. I'm like, that's some real ass moments.
Yeah. It was real, you know?
Yeah.
It was like, I didn't have any money.
So it's just like, I don't know. I wish people could see my face, and I'm just kind of like, people don't, you know, even now, like we see interns, like we don't know what they're going through. You know what I mean? Like, okay, but go ahead.
Yeah. That opportunity at the studio opened up a completely different opportunity that was an opportunity of a lifetime. I accepted a position after that at Netflix.
Oh my God.
And I got to work at Netflix before they actually turned into what we know Netflix to be now. They were just barely on the brink of, they released a press release stating that they were going to have an original series, House of Cards.
Oh, wow.
And I knew back then, like, this is the future. This is the direction that we're going to be headed in. This is how we're about to ingest digital content. I mean, I just knew, like, this was a big moment. So I got to work there for 3 years and experience a whole other incredible experiences that led me, I guess, to where I am right now, which is just working from home for Lionsgate now.
Like, okay, that's, you know, no big deal. I love how you say everything's so like But do you think you say it so like that because you know that the future is going to be even like greater, or what do you
Yeah. I think it's not, and maybe this is coming from a little bit of a jaded perspective, and I don't want it to be taken that way. I am extremely grateful. Like, I am still the girl that had a baby at 14 years old. You know, I don't forget that. Like, there's always moments where I'm like, oh shit, I'm like doing some crazy shit. And I was a teen mom, and and that woman that said, good luck, you know, I mean, I'm still that person.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of those experiences, but I really want to be able to create art where I get to share my experience with the world and hopefully inspire in some way or another. So for me, I think that is going to be
Wow. I feel like that's what you've done is amazing, but I feel like your true purpose is now coming into play.
Yes.
You have sacred circles, so let's talk about that.
Yes. So I had my first sacred circle for the full moon, where we hosted 15 women that were inclined to make a karmic investment and begin to walk a path of spirituality. I feel like in our community, in the Latino community, we really aren't spiritual. We're so attached to being religious.
Right.
And you don't have to let go of your religion in order to be spiritual. All spirituality for me really is paying attention to nature. And we are nature. Yeah. I look at a tree and I'm like one with the tree, as hippie as that might sound. But all it is just paying attention to the rhythm and the cycles of our lives. So I hosted a sacred circle along with Marcela. And Marcela, who's an energy healer, an amazing energy healer. And so it was incredible. I developed a ritual of sorts from elements that I pulled in from things that I read and I wanted to recreate for myself and for my community. So I'm going to continue to have sacred circles. I'm also going to begin hosting what is called a red tent. And a red tent is when women get together and talk about their menstruation, or as I like to call it, a moon cycle.
And that's kind of what Let There Be Luz podcast is about, right?
Yes.
So can you talk to us about how that came about?
Yes. So Let There Be Luz was a podcast that was developed because I was co-hosting another podcast, and that podcast didn't work out. But I got so connected to speaking about spirituality on that podcast that I wanted to proceed with the project and execute the spirituality side, because I received so much love from listeners that were thirsty for this information. And I felt equally compelled to want to share, because this is a journey that I've been experiencing since I was really young. Right. And look at the amazing things it's done for me. And so all I want to do is be able to build the confidence in other women in order for them to follow their spiritual journey, follow nature, and execute their soul's purpose. Right. That's all I want to do. So I took some time off and I really thought about what I wanted Let There Be Luz to look like. No, if you would have told me back then that it was going to be about bleeding every month, I would have been like, what? The concept actually came to me and my intuition told me to do it. And I believe it has some really powerful information there that women can really listen to and tap into. And I try to deliver the message in a captivating and storytelling type of way. And it's only about 30 minutes each episode. So I just want it to be digestible, and I want for people to really be able to take away.
It's too short, because sometimes you're just listening to these stories and you're like, you just listen and listen. You're like, wait, it's over? Like, what?
Yeah.
But I really like them. And I feel like a lot of people would benefit from just being able to relate to someone. I feel like, especially being Latina and coming into this or exploring this spiritual route, and not really, I mean, I believe in God 1000%, yes. But it's not a set, go to church and all that stuff. Yes. It's more of learning about yourself and the universe and your power.
Yes.
Because we're brought up, and one of my biggest things, which is what I'm working on right now, is kind of pinpointing limited beliefs and how our parents, not purposely, but they instilled these beliefs in us, like no tengo dinero and all this stuff, or saying no to us and not explaining why. You know, there's so many things that now I'm understanding, and I feel like more people in our community need to know about this.
Yes.
So having people like you and Marcela that are so in tune, and sharing this information, I think is super vital for us. So thank you for that. So how can someone begin their spiritual journey?
Listen to Let There Be Luz.
.com. Plug.
I really think that the first step is just honoring who you are and understanding that you do have a voice. There's two voices. So understanding that you do have a voice that's led by God, it's intuition, however you want to call it. And then you have another voice that's called the ego. And the ego voice is extremely dangerous. Yeah. So I think the first thing to do is to understand that there's those two different voices and differentiate those voices. The ego is very tricky. Sometimes it comes in the form of your mom, and when you want to buy a shirt, it says no tengo dinero.
Yeah.
You know? So it's just understanding what the voice of the ego is, and it's a voice that's very in your head. And then there's the intuition. That's a voice that comes down from your heart. It's kind of like a whisper. It kind of caresses. Yeah. Where the ego is more
loud,
volatile, and like in your head. So I think that if I could give any advice, that would be the best advice I could give, and to understand that you need to follow what the intuition is telling you, no matter how scary it might seem.
And then I feel like even now I feel like I've been on this spiritual journey, and I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface. There's so much.
Yes.
But there was times where I felt like, okay, am I crazy? Like, why is nobody? Yeah, I'm like, why is nobody like? I feel like for a long time I couldn't talk to anybody about it. My mom would kind of understand because she's kind of a low-key hippie, but you know, she still has her own beliefs, like old beliefs and stuff. So did you ever feel like you were crazy?
Oh yeah. Sometimes I still feel like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But real talk. Like, I mean, I told you I went through a crazy spiritual, I had to be hospitalized.
Oh, wow.
And I've never really shared this story, but I had to be hospitalized because I completely entered a different realm. Let's just say that I hung out with Galileo.
Oh my God. With the stars. No wonder everybody else is like, whatever.
Wow. I really just went there. I really just lost my mind. And I remember what happened when I lost my mind. I really entered, as opposed to, I think, when some people have breaks like this, they aren't able to recall or remember. But I remember very vividly the conversations I had with some amazing human beings that have walked this earth that we know of.
I'm like, I need that with Tupac.
But that is crazy. You know, that is crazy. And sometimes I do get scared, like, am I really this out of my mind? I definitely recommend for you to watch the movie called Peaceful Warrior if you haven't already. Yeah. It's an amazing film. I think you can rent it off of Amazon. It's incredible, and it talks about losing your mind, and that was pretty much sums up the experience that I went through when I first started on my journey to really seeking spirituality.
Man, okay, so I am crazy, everyone. No, but I feel like sometimes it's kind of, I was reading a post, and it's like, what happens when you become like aware? And it's kind of like sometimes you can't go back, but sometimes you're like, man, I wish, ignorance is bliss. Yeah. And I'm like, I feel that way even now with like food. Like I just transitioned to becoming vegan because I'm like animals and all that stuff and just how bad it is. But sometimes I'm like, it's a little difficult and I wish I just didn't care sometimes.
Yeah. Yes. It's kind of like, The Matrix. Yeah. You know, the movie The Matrix, and Neo, now all he sees is green lines on a screen, but you want to just enjoy the steak.
Right, exactly. Or even just like things that I know aren't right. I can't just be like, okay, like my husband, he's like if I hear something, I'm like, oh my God, this is so wrong, and my husband's like, okay. Like he's just so used to it. And I'm like, I am so sorry. I'm so extra sometimes. And he's like, no, like, he's like, you're passionate. And I love that about you. Yeah. But it's sometimes I'm like, can you just shut the hell up and just like be normal? Like, but I mean, I'm sure you understand how that is.
Yeah. I really think you're following the path that you're supposed to follow. And if you're not feeling crazy when you follow that path, then maybe you're not on the path.
You're not on the right one.
But it will pay off and it will flourish, and you'll see that. I'm sure you get validations, confirmations all the time. You begin to attract what you're seeing, and things begin to make sense.
And, you know, we're talking about all the beautiful things that come with it. But, you know, there's still times where things are hard and you're still human. You know what I mean? And there was this one YouTube video, which I talked to you about earlier, where you're kind of going through a tough period. And it's a beautiful video.
Thank you.
And it's like a voiceover, and you're talking about like you know, you have so many things to be happy about, and sometimes you just have to go in.
Yes.
So can you talk about those moments and how you cope with those moments?
Yes. Well, you know, being on a spiritual path, I think, is just being on a spiritual path. It's that. I don't think that anyone gets to learn all of the knowledge. You know, we're constantly having to learn, and we're constantly having to apply what we've learned. And especially when you're following a spiritual path, I feel like once you learn something, God then is like, all right, here's the test.
Yeah.
And you're having to work through it. At least that's the way I find myself. So I still get, you know, sad, and I can very easily fall into darkness like anybody else. And what I find for me is it's important to share that. I think that is very powerful all on its own. It's important to share that. And I feel like when you do share it and you demonstrate to other people that even though you are on a certain path, you're still human, you're still vulnerable, it sort of promotes a self-healing. But what I do is always share the light. Like, how did I get out of it? Even as I was editing that video, I didn't feel that way anymore. So it was really weird. I shot it, edited, and did the voiceover all within the time span of like an hour or so.
Oh my God.
But when I was doing it, as I was editing, I was like, I don't even feel this way anymore. And I was just feeling that way. That's why I picked up the camera. And I almost didn't want to do it because I couldn't relate to the video anymore. It was because I really did find the light in saying I was thankful and giving my gratitude towards my fingers,
I totally forgot about that part, that you wrote down everything you were grateful for.
Yes. And I also wrote affirmations. So it wasn't just the simple things that I'm grateful for, which I love to do. Like, I'm grateful for my pillow. Like, that's how low level it is. Like, thank you for the bed. Thank you for the roof over the head. Thank you for all of my working fingers.
Being able to
for
walk.
my feet. Yeah, being able to pick up my baby. And then I move into a space of much more powerful. I move into a space of much more power. Like, I am strong. I am intelligent. I am confident. And that's how I pull myself out of being in a negative situation.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, first let's say you're in a funk, and then you try to remember what you're grateful for. So then you're kind of on a higher vibration, and then you use your affirmations to get even on a higher vibration. Yes. Okay, and that's how you pull. Okay, there's levels to this. I like this.
It's really simple. I really think that it changes the energy within. It changes it for me almost instantaneously.
No, and it totally makes sense, because if you go right into affirmations, you're not on that vibration right away.
Yes. Okay. So exactly. So that's why you start from the ground level. Like sometimes, who cares about being grateful for the car? You know, that's why it starts with like my fingers and
little big things.
Exactly. The things that actually really do matter.
Yeah. Have you ever? Okay. So sorry, I'm gonna go way back real quick. Okay. But there was a time when you said that you had been planting seeds, and nothing was happening. Can you talk about that moment and what you were referring to?
Yeah. So there was there were several times when actually that was taking place, but I think the time that you're referencing was when I quit my job and
the radio,
yes. And I went in to be a hostess, and I kept asking, I couldn't live off of $10 an hour. And I kept asking my manager to please let me pick up some shifts and be a waitress. I used to be a great waitress. I can do this. And he just wouldn't let me. I was applying for other waitressing jobs. I was trying every single thing and nothing was working out. I was so focused on trying to pay the bills. I had a letter of eviction. I was about to get evicted. My best friend, Melissa, had to send me money. I was going through such a tough time and I couldn't find a break. And all I really needed to do was follow what I really was passionate about, and that was trying to get into film. But it was a long time. I went through that tough period for a really long time. I want to say maybe about a year, and that's hard. That can really take a beating. I could have easily settled and been like, I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to do it.
Go back to a regular 9 to 5.
Yeah, but
not that they were even freaking calling.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't meant for you.
Exactly.
I feel like in those moments, deep down what you need to do, but because you're you're distracted by your actual reality, that you can't focus on I want to, write this thing, but I got to pay my bills because, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So what was that? Was that when the internship came in?
Actually, that's a funny story. Let me tell you. You just reminded me. I was writing a script. And in midst of writing the script, I was so frustrated. I should be looking for a job right now instead of writing the script. And I went to look at my phone and my phone was disconnected and I didn't have the money to pay for my phone. And now I was like, if somebody does call me from the jobs I've been applying to, how are they going to get a hold of me because I don't have a phone? And I just dropped to the ground and was like, I'm done. I'm tired. If I'm not supposed to follow the path of going to LA and doing something creative, then take it out of my heart, God. Just take it out of my heart and move me in a different direction. Just take it out. And I ended up calling the phone company and was like, hey, can you just give me an extension? They turned it back on. They gave me an extension. And in that moment, Oscar, he became a friend of mine, the writer of the films. He tagged me on a post, some people looking for internships on Nalip. And I followed that path. He tagged me on that post. I applied for the internship, and right away my phone rang from the girl that was looking for interns, and she was like, can you come in? And I was like,
oh my God.
Okay, I'm supposed to follow the path. This is it. Okay, I get it. I'm going to move in that direction, and I know God's going to make way, and it's going to be fine.
I am so glad I asked that because it's so much of what you're saying, I don't think you understand because, we haven't met prior to this, but it resonates with me so much. And even on a present level, the writing of the script, the waiting, the planting seeds and all that. So I want to thank you so much. I've had you here for a while. I want to thank you for sharing your journey. And on this one is so special to me because it's relatable, it's inspiring, and it gives us so much information that we really need and I really need. And so I really appreciate you and I appreciate people like you. And where can people find you before I get emotional?
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been really special. And all the stuff that you pulled up was great. So thank you for digging deep.
For stalking you.
You can find me on Instagram at Luz Warrior. And you can find my YouTube channel, the podcast, all of that good stuff on lettherebeluz.com.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you everyone for listening. This is Dash Radio, Meet the Industry. Oh, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Meet the Industry. I post cute little things sometimes.
Yes, you do.